We're about to dig into a fascinating clash in the wizarding world that has absolutely nothing to do with wands. It's all about words. We're going to break down how one particular source analyzes the whole controversy between J.K. Rowling and John Lithgow, the actor who's been cast as the new Dumbledore.
So, to really get a grip on the source's take on all this, we're going to walk through 5 key steps. First, we'll look at the comment that kicked this whole thing off. Then we'll try to decode that criticism. After that, we'll check out the source's counterargument, put it all into a bigger Hollywood context, and finally, we'll tackle that huge question, art versus the artist.
All right, let's dive right in. Section 1. Dumbledore's diss. This is the moment that really set the entire conversation on fire.
Okay, so let's set the stage. You've got the super hyped HBO Harry Potter series coming up. And in a pretty huge casting announcement, the veteran actor John Lithgow is revealed to be taking on the legendary role of Albus Dumbledore. So during an interview, Lithgow gets asked about J.K. Rowling and her pretty controversial public statements. And his response? It was super direct. He said, "I find her views ironic and inexplicable." Now, according to the source material we're looking at, this one sentence is basically the key that unlocks this entire debate.
So what is really hiding behind those two words, ironic and inexplicable? In this next section, we're going to explore how the source material breaks down the criticism that it believes is baked right into Lithgow's comment.
You know, the analysis we're examining here claims that Lithgow didn't just drop this quote out of nowhere. It argues that he first set up the Harry Potter series as this big battle of kindness versus cruelty. So by doing that, the source suggests that Lithgow was basically drawing a line in the sand, intentionally putting Rowling's real-world views on the side of the exact cruelty and evil she writes against in her own books.
And then the source points out what it sees as a straight-up factual contradiction. On the left, you see Lithgow's claim that Rowling is not really involved in the production at all. But then on the right, the source points to what Rowling herself has said, where she describes herself as a heavily involved executive producer.
So after laying out all that criticism, how does the source material push back? Well, that brings us to Section 3, a defense of reality.
The analysis we're following here argues that Rowling's stance isn't inexplicable in the slightest. Instead, it says her views are actually pretty straightforward and are rooted in a traditional biological understanding of sex, as the quote here says, a belief in men are men and women are women.
And the source's argument actually goes a step further. It claims that if you just look at the books themselves, with their separate dorms for boys and girls, clear distinctions between male and female characters, this worldview is perfectly consistent with the one she's talking about today. The suggestion here is that her views really shouldn't be a shock to anyone who's actually read her work.
So from the source's perspective, the motivation here isn't cruelty at all. The analysis frames her public statements as being driven by a desire to protect women's spaces and to advocate for what she sees as their unique needs and privacy.
Now, this is where the analysis kind of zooms out from this one interview, suggesting that Lithgow's comments aren't just some isolated incident. And that leads us to Section 4, the Hollywood pattern.
This slide really gets to the heart of what the source claims is a much wider pattern in Hollywood. The argument being made here is that there's this trend of actors and creators who publicly criticize Rowling's views, while at the same time they're actively participating in and, profiting from the massive franchise that she created.
And to back up this claim of a pattern, the source actually provides this list. It includes the original trio of actors, Radcliffe, Watson, and Grint, and also director Chris Columbus and another actress. The source alleges that all of them have made public statements to kind of distance themselves from Rowling.
As another example, the source points to this quote from an actress involved in a Harry Potter audiobook. So when she was asked about the whole controversy, her response was, "We're all going to have to figure out how to live together." The source presents this as sort of a classic case of a diplomatic, non-committal answer to avoid taking a really firm stance one way or the other.
And all of this, really, it all builds up to the final central tension at the heart of this entire analysis, that age-old question of art versus the artist.
Right here, the source really drills down on what it sees as the core conflict, profit versus conviction. It questions the ethics of enjoying the career boosts and financial rewards from an artist's creation, while, as the analysis puts it, simultaneously throwing them under the bus for their personal beliefs.
And so, the analysis leaves us right here with this really fundamental question that hangs over so many creators and their work today. Where do we draw the line between an artist and their creation? It's a question with absolutely no easy answers, but it's one that this whole controversy really forces us all to think about. Thanks for tuning in to The Explainer.